It's time for the Leadership Lunch Break with Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy. Let's tune in for today's discussion.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Leadership Lunch Break. I'm Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy, and I'm so glad that you joined me today as we talk about something that really came to my mind watching the Olympics. So I'll be honest with you, my family, we are Olympics fans, and we've been watching the Olympics. And so while we were watching the Olympics, I started to see so many things change. And of course, we know what we're talking about, just looking at mental health and looking at our athletes and some of the things that they've been saying about how they are challenged to continue to push and push and push, even to the toll where Simone Biles pulled out. I mean, we know the story, and I have been, let me say first, hello to everybody. I'm doing it on Instagram. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, and it's on YouTube. So hello to social media world. First, let me say, I have been reading and watching a lot of people with a lot of feedback about what's happening and how Simone Biles has handled this. And people are really, really disturbed behind her choices. And so first, I want to say, none of us know her reason. None of us know her choices. And so I am grateful that she took the stand that she did for her health. And what it got me to thinking about is that a lot of times in our lives, especially as leaders, and I don't mean leaders are people with power, but people with influence and responsibility. A lot of times as leaders, we find ourselves in situations where we're trying to be perfect. Because as leaders, we want to always demonstrate perfection, whether it is, I'm the best at this, I'm the best at this, I do this really well. We want to be known as great. And so the greatest of all time, the GOAT, is a great name to have. But can you imagine the pressure that comes along with someone saying that you're great? I mean, listen, we have trouble and we're just trying to do our best. And so what I realized in doing some research and just, thinking about this idea of being a leader and being perfect is to really say the truth of the matter as leaders is that leaders aren't perfect. And I'm not talking about perfect in the sense of what we do, but just truly the pursuit of perfection. That is something that many, many of us struggle with. But in all honesty, the pursuit of perfection is exhausting. I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, and I try to get all of it right all the time. I really do. I really do. I try to be the best wife, the best mother, the best friend, the best everything. And I have realized that in an effort to do that, my pursuit to being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend has become exhausting. So much so that for the last few weeks, I've really been struggling with balance and acceptance and rejection. I'll be honest, all of some of the emotions that I've been working through just because the idea of perfection has been plaguing me. I'm an only child. And I'm not saying these stories just to boast, but I'm an only child. I've never made a C in my entire life. I have been an A and B student all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school. I graduated number 12 in my high school class. I graduated summa cum laude from college, Tennessee State University. Woo-hoo! I also got a 4.0 in my master's. So failure is not something that I completely resonate with. And I push myself to be the best. But as I've gotten older, pushing myself to that degree has truly been a challenge and a detriment. So I struggle a lot in areas when I don't do what I think is my best because I'm always trying to meet another goal or achieve another goal or do something better or do something great. And if you're like me and you find yourself in that situation, the truth of the matter is you suffer from perfectionism. And I know we don't like to hear that word. I know we don't want to be told that we're trying to be perfect. But if I'm in a situation in my life where I'm really struggling when I don't do well, and it really bothers me, I am by definition a perfectionist. So let me tell you the definition of perfectionist so we can all be on the same page. The term perfectionist is someone who pursues flawless work and sets unrealistically high standards and goals for themselves. Now, I know some of you are going to say, that's not me because I don't set unrealistic goals for myself. But the truth is, many of us do, whether we acknowledge it or try to or not. Many of us actually do set some unrealistic goals for ourselves. How do you know? If the goal that you've had on your vision board or in your calendar or your planner is the same goal that you have had forever and ever and ever and ever, then yes, you are someone who's continuing to pursue. And if it continues to stay, and you find yourself in a situation where you're never achieving that goal, that might be an unrealistic goal or a highly achievable goal. And it's great to have those. We call them stretch goals. That's what we call them. But in actuality, sometimes trying to have those goals can really be a challenge. And if I find that I don't achieve those goals and I continue to pursue, and I start to doubt myself or my abilities, or I start to find myself criticizing even just who I am and my worth, that's perfectionism. And that's an attitude that I don't want to do. So we tend to be very critical. If you're a perfectionist, you tend to be very critical of the work that you do, even when it's good. That's me. That's absolutely me. I do good work. I try to do good work. I try to do some great things. And in my efforts to even do those things, I can find something wrong with it. Let me give you an example. So I've been doing this leadership lunch break for a while, and I feel like they're going pretty good. So today I decided to step it up a notch and do it on Instagram, which I can't even wave right now, folks. So hello to everybody on Instagram. So I've decided to step it up a notch. And people have told me recently, like, Joy, you're doing a really good job. Your leadership lunch breaks are good. The business is going well, but I don't see that in myself. So no matter how much people say, oh, you're helping me, the clients are happy, things are going well, people are watching, it doesn't do that for me. And so I'm always like, well, what could I do different? What could I do better? How can I be better? And the more and more and more I do that, the more and more and more that, oh, thank you. Brittany says she loves it on IG. Okay, well, listen, thank you for that. I'm trying to get it together. So thank you for that. Yes. So, but the more and more and more I'm trying to get the business going and get some things out there, the more I'm critiquing myself. So I spend a ton of time saying, oh my goodness, this is not working for me. Oh my goodness, this is not happening for me. Oh my goodness, this could be better. This could be better. So I do suffer from a perfectionist attitude from time to time. And if you're a person like that even when you are in, when you're watching or watching yourself or doing those things, or you're trying to have some great experiences and you continue to critique yourself and say, I could have done this better. This could have been better. This could have been better. Man, I wish I would have done that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That's perfectionism. And when we do that, we find ourselves unhappy. We find ourselves anxious. We find ourselves frustrated. How many of you have ever felt like that? That I'm truly like, listen, I have had enough. And in my efforts to do it, I suffer from exhaustion, frustration, anger, fatigue, so many different things because I'm trying so hard to not miss a beat, to not miss the mark, to do everything that I think in my mind I should do to make sure that I am successful. And so there are two types of perfection types of people. There are two types. There's an adaptive perfectionism and there's a maladaptive perfectionism. So I've been doing some research on this because I'm trying to help myself while I help other people. And so an adaptive perfectionist is striving for higher in standards, and they work hard and they want to get things done well, but they do it in healthy ways. So they say, you know what? I have a goal. So, okay, one of my goals is to lose weight. And it seems like I always have that goal. Milton, we'll see how that works. But yeah, so I want to lose weight. And so I can say to myself, okay, Joy, the goal is to lose weight. The goal is to lose weight. That's what we want to do. So I now say, let's do it. So I put a plan together. I start eating right. I start working out. I start doing certain things just to begin to feel better and to lose the weight. So that's an adaptive. I'm making a healthy choice. I choose to lose weight. So I'm going to do the work that's necessary to lose the weight. Now, if I'm in a situation where I am looking at myself and I get in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, Joy, you look horrible. Oh, I can't believe you got so big. looking at pictures and photos, looking at so many things. And every time I look at myself, I don't like what I see. So I begin to criticize myself, or I begin to say, you know what, I'm not going to eat today. I'm going to start doing some things that are unproductive. That's maladaptive perfectionism. And that's an unhealthy strategy, because now I reject it. And so even when people say, oh, Joy, are you losing weight? You look good. Guess what I say? Really? I don't feel like it. Oh man, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still working. And so we do it in a fear of success or a fear of failure. And so those emotions are emotions that we tie with us that become painful. So we find ourselves always criticizing. We find ourselves always frustrated. We find ourselves always anxious and angry. And even when we try to do our best, it's never good enough. How many of us are like that? No matter what we do, no matter how great we are, and people will tell you if you're good or bad, right? No matter how much of that we do, it's never enough. It's never enough. I'm always chasing something different, something more, something extra. That's called maladaptive perfectionism. And if you want to be good at things, that's great. We all want to be. But when they become unhealthy, even in the Olympics, let me tell you, I was having a conversation with my husband. Am I the only person who really feels bad when people get a silver and a gold medal? And here's why. I mean, a silver and a bronze medal. Here's why. Because the goal is to get the gold medal, right? To get the gold medal. So if you don't get the gold medal, or we don't watch people get the gold medal, do we sometimes feel like people have failed? I have to catch myself, because my husband and I have had this conversation over the last week or so. We've been watching, and we do feel kind of bad, like when Noah Lyles got bronze yesterday, and he was poised to get the gold. So we felt really bad, like, oh my gosh, he got the bronze. Man, that's horrible. But we never stopped to think about the fact that he's an Olympian. So even getting a bronze medal, you're still the third fastest man in the world. So a lot of times when we have a maladaptive idea of what it means to truly be a perfectionist, is we don't ever see the positive. We only see the negative. And that, friends, can really, really challenge us. It can cause stress in our lives. It can cause us to be unhealthy physically, emotionally. And here's how you know if you're one of those people. Do you say, when you do something great, my best is enough? Or do you say, my best wasn't good enough? If you're a person who says, man, I did a really good job, I'm proud of myself, then you are a person who's adaptive, and your perfectionism may not be as bad as some others may be. And nobody's bad, nobody's good, but just you are managing it a little better. But if even in your best, you say that's not good enough, then you have a maladaptive concern when it comes to perfectionism. So here's some questions I want you to ask yourself. What has your perfection cost you in the past? Your need to be perfect, what does it cost you? So I'll tell you for me what it's cost. So for me, what it's cost is my peace. Plain and simple. My desire to be perfect has cost my peace, because I have spent so much time trying to be things for people, act ways for people, manage relationships, show up for everything, show up for everyone. And so that no one will have anything bad to say about Joy. And it's cost me my peace. And so now I'm undoing some of that, because I've spent years trying to be the perfect whatever that is. And I'll give you a little bit of information. One of the things to know about trying to be perfect is, in your effort to be perfect, you're going to be imperfect, because nobody's perfect. And, we've heard the saying, if you're a church person, nobody's perfect but Jesus. Those are really true. Even in our best efforts to be perfect, we're going to be imperfect. It's just the way it is. And the more I try to be perfect, the more mistakes I'm going to make, because I'm trying to be perfect, and I'm becoming all things to all people doing those areas, but I'm not doing anything for myself. So one of the things it's cost me is my peace. Another thing that trying to be perfect has cost me is really my joy, because I've spent so much time criticizing myself on all the things that I'm not doing well and all the things that aren't going 100% well, that I've missed the opportunity to just celebrate some of the accomplishments. Hey, Joy, listen, here's one right here. I'm going to help me celebrate. Okay. like I said, I've been doing Speaking of Joy, and every day I'm trying to figure out how to make it better, do more, add more, those things. But sometimes just to say, hey, Joy, you started a business in the pandemic. Hey, Joy, you're doing pretty good. Hey, Joy, you got people watching. Hey, Joy, people are subscribing. So, Joy, you're doing good. So even right now, just to stop and say, good job. And so my joy comes from within. And if I don't feel it inside, being perfect has cost me my joy. And then the last thing that, and this is just me, the last thing that being perfect has really cost me is my ability to grow. Because I'm so busy trying to make sure that I hit every mark that I miss the opportunities and the lessons. So I am not a risk taker, okay? Not a risk taker on any level, which is why entrepreneurship scares me, because I'm not a risk taker. And by not being a risk taker, hey, thank you, Rose Harvey. She said, I'm doing fantastic. Listen, I'm not a risk taker. I don't like them. I believe, I call myself the safety sergeant. In other words, if you've read my chapter in the book, you know I'm a safety sergeant, meaning I'm only going to do things that I know I'm going to be successful in. That is type A, number one. You are absolutely a perfectionist. So I don't take risks. Don't believe in them. I think they're highly overrated. And not because I really don't want to take risks, but because I believe if I take risks and I fail, then that is a huge blow to who I am. So here are some quick ways to know whether or not you're a maladaptive perfectionist. That's the person, of course, that has unhealthy, okay? You give up on tasks if you feel that you can't win them, okay? You spend an excessive amount of time planning or redoing to make it perfect. How many of us do that? We're doing something, we're like, oh, we don't like that. We just erase it and do it again. Or I don't like that. We tear it up and throw it away. Or we scratch it out and do it again. You don't like taking risks unless you're going to have a successful outcome. And then here's one I think many of us struggle with. We're overly concerned about what people will think and believe. And if our flaws are exposed, we'll be rejected. That's huge. We don't even think about perfection in that way. I have 7-year-old twins. You guys know this. And my girls, one of them is really, really motivated to get everything right. So much so that when she doesn't do well, she cries. And although I'm trying to teach her, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay that you didn't get it right. I'm not taking that advice. Because I get very down on myself when things don't go like I expect them to, or when they're not what I think they should be. So if we're not careful, we even project those things into our teens, into our children, into our relationships, so that even those around us are so anxious, they have a hard time really managing their emotions. So here it is. I'm going to give you 4 ways that you can actually begin. If you're a maladaptive perfectionist, or if you're just a regular perfectionist, here are 4 ways that you can begin to manage your perfectionism. You ready? Okay, here's the first one. And on Instagram, I'll just tell you what they are, and then I'll put them in the comments later. So number 1 is address the need to be perfect. The first step is to admit we have a problem. So here, whether you acknowledge it on any of these platforms, I will tell you that my need to be perfect is a challenge because I want to get it right. And I don't want to get it right just for myself. I want to get it right for the people I work with, the people I love, the people I'm in relationship with. I want to get it right. And so I have a driving desire to get it right. But when that becomes unhealthy, so like Simone Biles, greatest of all times, can you imagine what was going on in her head every time before we knew it was the twisties, when she was just flipping and wasn't sticking her landings? And prior to this, she's the greatest in the world. She's known for her consistency. And right now, she's not consistent. Right now, she is not able to get it done. Can you imagine the conversations that she had in her head? And I'm sure it was, gosh, Simone, we got to get it right. Got to be perfect. And she may not have used the word perfect, but she may have said, we got to do our best. It's got to be on. It's got to. And the minute that you start to do that, you become a maladaptive perfectionist. And so the minute that you're at a point where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe, why didn't I? And you start to have those conversations, then you need to address the need to be perfect. And the easiest way to say that is, listen, I recognize that I'm trying to do all things, be all things, and have all things. It's okay to say, you know what, I can't do that. So the first one is to address the need to be perfect. Number 2 is address your insecurities. So a lot of times, many of us struggle with imperfection because we believe it says something about us. We believe that not showing up in our 100% self all the time means that there's something wrong with us. Okay, I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to tell you my stories. So if you've noticed this week, I've been posting more, being more present. And I'll tell you the funny story about that is part of the reason why I haven't gone live on so many platforms or done so many things is because I have spent a lot of time saying that every time I come on, because speaking of joy is a brand, it's a brand. And so because it's a brand, I've been saying every time I show up, I need to make sure that my eyebrows are on, my makeup is on, and that I look the brand for speaking of joy. And you know why? This is the conversation I've had with myself, and it's a maladaptive form of perfection. But here's why I've been doing that. It's because if you saw me in my regular self, I don't know what you think about me. So for me, I don't want to be rejected by the people who are watching. I don't want to be criticized. So for me, the idea of pursuit of perfection is because of some insecurities. And those insecurities can be rejection, fear of failure, even for some people, fear of success. So those can be a number of reasons, truly, why many of us are always trying to be perfect or trying to be on. Because if I'm not, then what will people think about me? What will people say about me? They'll believe that I'm not all that I've said I am. So a lot of times when we talk about our insecurities, what's the motivation behind continuing? It could be, you know what, growing up, nobody thought I was this, so now I have to prove them wrong. It could be, you know what, I don't like the way I look, so I wear this makeup or I do these things, or I can't have a hair out of place. So whatever your reason is for that part of perfection, it could be, you know what, I'm working hard on my job. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not going to miss a deadline. I'm not going to miss a date because I was passed up for the last promotion. So whatever the reason is, if you don't address your insecurities, a lot of time the perfection is the manifestation of an insecurity. So what are your insecurities that drive you to that maladaptive form of perfection? Number 3, appreciate mistakes and the exposure. This is one that's hard because as leaders, we're always taught you don't make mistakes, right? Nobody makes mistakes. We get it right. And even if we make mistakes, how many of us actually acknowledge that we make mistakes? How many of us truly say, you know what, I messed that up? My daughter's had a birthday party a couple weeks ago to go to, and I was driving to Urban Air to take him to a birthday party. Cool. On the way to Urban Air. I was going to the Urban Air that we always go to because that's the one we always go to. Get to Urban Air, walk in, ta-da, no party. I didn't pay attention to the fact that the party was at another Urban Air. So now my children are, oh, mommy, I can't believe. And so I had to apologize to my children because in an effort to do 15 things and get them where they needed to go, I had something else I needed to do. I missed the mark. And so by saying, you know what, I'm sorry, girls, I missed the mark. And this is what I had to say to them. Sometimes mommies make mistakes. Sometimes mommies don't get it right. And I asked them to forgive me. Now, as a mom, I'm trying to get it 100% right all the time. So for me to make a mistake, even with my children, was a challenge. But being exposed to the fact that I didn't get it right was a challenge for me. But I was grateful and glad that I made the mistake so that I could teach a lesson to my girls that even as mommies, we sometimes make mistakes. So as leaders, when you make a mistake, acknowledge it, own it. Say you made a mistake, because truly, 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 that's what helps people. And that lets them know you're human. That lets them know that you are a human being in this world. You're not perfect. You're not always going to get it right. That really does help people. So appreciate not only the mistake, but the exposure. If you make a mistake and it's brought into the world, now I'm not saying scandal and salacious, but I'm saying if people see that you've made the mistake, then say, yeah, you know what, I did. I'm human. Because we all are, and we're all trying to figure it out. And then the last one is amend your pursuit. So now you have addressed that you want to be perfect. So you're like, okay, I know I want to be perfect. Why do I want to do that? So you've addressed the why. And then now you're saying, you know what? I realize I may not be perfect in everything. So now you're like, you know what? Now that I'm aware, I can begin to change my course of action. So I can now begin to choose how I show up. I can still choose to try to be perfect, but I recognize that I'm probably going to fail. I recognize, and that's a word people don't like, is fail. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure allows you the opportunity to regroup and to start over. So if you have a fear of failure and you think that driving to a perfectionist attitude is going to keep you from failing, you are sadly mistaken. Failure is a part of the process. And so when you're looking at failure and you're looking at perfectionism, maladaptive or adaptive, acknowledge and embrace the fact that from time to time, you might fail. So ask yourself, how many relationships have been affected by me expecting too much from others? That's another question you can ask about yourself to identify if you're a perfectionist. And I will tell you, that's one that I've been meditating on and pondering for a while now, because that's something that I've been challenged with. Is I have expectations of others, and having those expectations of other people will sometimes let me down because I expect them to be the perfect whatever. Perfect child, perfect husband, perfect friend. And I am learning that I can no longer have those expectations. So although I may set that bar for myself, I can't have that expectation for other people because other people are flawed, really just like I am, but they're flawed as well. And then what will I gain from having more reasonable expectations? It's a good question. If I want more out of life, this is going to sound crazy, but if I want more, sometimes I should expect less. Because the more I want, the more I pursue. And if I'm not careful, it becomes perfection and a pursuit of perfection, which is impossible. But if I want more, then sometimes if I say, I want to lose more weight, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take baby steps. I'm going to do those things so that I can see my progress along the way. That sometimes makes all the difference in the world. So I've got to accept myself as I am. And I've got to accept others as they are. That is the blessing of understanding how to manage. So even now when I watch the Olympics, I am learning that it is really okay. It is really okay to get a silver medal, a bronze medal, a gold medal, to even be running on the track. I realize it's okay. And it's okay because they've achieved a goal. And yeah, they had to work hard. Yeah, they probably put their bodies through a lot, which is why I applaud these athletes now for saying it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress because perfection is not something that we really can attain. And so now recognizing that your emotional health, your spiritual health, your psychological health, your relational health is more important than the pursuit of that perfectionist goal. It gives you the ability to give yourself grace. And to give others grace so that you can find the peace and joy in the journey. So I thank you all so very much for watching the Leadership Lunch Break today. I hope it helped you. Listen, I want you to share this. I want you to like it because I'm on a journey and I want to be on the journey with you. Of course, I'm excited to make the announcements that the Leadership Lunch Break is a podcast. So I invite you to go to your favorite podcast platform and find the Leadership Lunch Break podcast there. There are new episodes that have just been launched. So I want you to go there and follow me. I'll be putting out new episodes very regularly. And if you have not subscribed to the Speaking of Joy newsletter, this is the time to do it because I've got some great things that are coming and I want you to be a part of the Speaking of Joy community. So the only way you can do that is to go in. So go to www.speakingofjoy.com and you'll find a place where you can sign up and become a part of the Leadership Lunch Break. So listen, thank you all so much. Instagram, thank you so much. I hope this worked out. We're going to keep going this way. Thank you all for watching and I will see you next week. And hey, let's enjoy the rest of the Olympics, okay? All right.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Join us next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time for lunch as we continue our discussions. Follow Speaking of Joy on all social media platforms or visit our website at www.speakingofjoy.com. That's www.speakingofjoye.com. Until next week.